The New Deal, an illustrative example for Unit 7.4 with government intervention in the economy. Now, let's start off with a bit of historical context. The Great Depression happened in 1929 when the stock market crashed in the United States. Now, after World War I, everyone was trading with the United States, imports and exports, mainly because we spent a lot of money rebuilding Europe. Now, since a lot of the world's economies relied on our economy, which crashed, many countries suffered greatly, with Germany being a prime example, having huge inflation rates. Now, the current president was Herbert Hoover, and he believed in minimal intervention with the economy. And to his credit, this plan could have absolutely worked, but unfortunately it didn't in time. His cabinet pressured him to do anything, and he signed the Revenue Act of 1932, which increased individual income tax, with the idea being to balance the federal budget. Well, it failed. He spent lots of money on public works projects, like the Hoover Dam, for example. Now, there he is. And here's two of the most famous images of the Great Depression. At the top, here's a woman sad because she has 2 kids at this whole fiasco. Probably the worst part about the Great Depression is that it was during Prohibition, so people couldn't even drink the pain away. Now down there is a photograph of German kids playing with stacks of money as building blocks. The Weimar Republic printed so much money because Germany, of course, the Treaty of Versailles made them need to pay reparations. Now, during the Great Depression, they had no money whatsoever, so they decided to print money, which, of course, destroyed their economy. Now, in the election of 1932, Democrat Franklin Roosevelt went against current President Herbert Hoover. Now, most of the country blamed Hoover for the Depression. It wasn't completely unwarranted, but, in most times of crises, blaming the president is super easy to do. Now, Roosevelt threw some shade at Hoover, His vice president even called him a socialist, which, back in the day, being called a socialist would absolutely destroy you. Roosevelt's campaign slogans were, "Happy days are here again," while Hoover's were, "We are turning the corner," saying that, come on guys, we're about to beat the Great Depression. Now, next election, Roosevelt said, "Remember Hoover!" Which, look at that election map. He got crushed. Now, an interesting part about this is near the end, they got downright nasty. Roosevelt even called Hoover a fat and timid, hold on, I need to look this up real quick. I'm sorry. A fat, timid capon, with a capon being a castrated rooster. So he's calling him a fat, cowardly rooster that's castrated. Now, an interesting thing here is that when he was still president-elect, this guy, Giuseppe Zaguer, tried to assassinate him. What for? We don't really know, but there was a parade in Chicago, and he stood up and fired 6 shots at Roosevelt. All of them missed, and he accidentally killed the mayor of Chicago instead. So, it's an interesting story.
Mr. Beat.
Hold on. This is a video about the presidential election of 1932. It's really good. I recommend it. Now, the New Deal. And as soon as he was president, Roosevelt spent lots of federal money into government programs. The CCC, WPA, FCA, and so much more. He did a lot more than Hoover did, but he also did some public works project, as Hoover did. These programs were there to also prevent any repeat depressions, which ended in 1939. That's the same year World War II started. And since everyone, gave Roosevelt the credit for ending the Depression, he used this to gain momentum to becoming 4 terms as president, which is the most before and the most forever after, because thanks to the 22nd Amendment, each president could only serve 2 terms. As you see here, here's a political cartoon. TVA, WPA, PWA, AAA. There were so many new government programs created by Roosevelt. But how is this an illustrative example? So 7.4 says, its economy in the interwar period between World War I and World War II, with its leading objective just saying, explain how different governments responding to economic crises after 1900. Now, this New Deal is a very unique example, as the Great Depression was probably the biggest economic crisis throughout all of history. You can make a case for second place, but it has to be the Great Depression. It lasted an entire decade. But why did it last an entire decade if Roosevelt was so good? Some historians actually argue that Roosevelt's spending prolonged the Great Depression with unnecessary things. So, to conclude, this is an illustrative example because of the unique way Roosevelt dealt with things, and that everyone said he did it, when, it's very debatable if he helped at all. Thank you.